Good evening, Planeswalkers. This is the Gamesman here, and I've got another white and blue deck to show you. This one is called Artifactory, and you'll see why shortly. Let's get into the 1-mana cards. We've got Hotshot Mechanic and Portable Hole for 1 white, both artifacts. Silver Raven, Blackstaff of Waterdeep, and Trickster's Talisman, all 1 blue. And in particular, Blackstaff of Waterdeep, you may choose not to untap the Blackstaff. During your untap step, we can animate Walking Statue for 1 colorless, 1 blue, and tapping the Blackstaff. Another target non-token artifact you control becomes a 4/4 artifact creature for as long as it remains tapped. So we've got Silver Raven that is a flying 1/1, becomes a flying 4/4. Same with Hotshot Mechanic, a 2/1 becomes a 4/4. And then later on these higher mana artifacts, you'll see what will happen. Ingenious Smith. When Ingenious Smith enters the battlefield, we look at the top 4 cards of our library. We can reveal an artifact card among them, put it into your hand, put the rest in your library. When 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Ingenious Smith. So, obviously there's a lot of artifacts in this deck. You'll more than likely get one in the top 4 cards of your library, and now you've got more to boost Ingenious Smith. Michiko's Reign of Truth. Target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment you control. You can see where that one's going. Armguard Familiar. Another one of those creatures we can use the Blackstaff on, and it's Ward 2. Reconfigure to a +2/+1 bonus equipment artifact equipment modifier. Anyway, Planer Incision, we can send 1 into exile and bring it back with a +1/+1 counter. Investigator's Journal, when we get enough creatures out, we get suspect counters equal to the greatest number of creatures a player controls, and then we have a drawing mechanic for 2 and tap it. Mechtitan Core, we get enough artifact, creatures, or vehicles out, and this thing becomes unbelievable. 10/10 flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, haste. And that's happened in a few games I've played. Moonsilver Key, we can search for land or a particular artifact card with a mana ability. And Patchwork Automaton, when it comes out, it's Ward 2, and we put a +1/+1 counter on it for every artifact that comes out. This is, I think, one of the more cornerstone cards of the deck. It's a good card for only 2 colorless. I think it's a really good card. Covert Technician, it's ninjutsu for 1 colorless, 1 blue. When it hits and does damage to a player, we can put an artifact card with mana value less than or equal to that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. So we've got all these cards here and that range at its base power. And then we throw a Trickster's Talisman on it, and now it's 3, which will take care of all these, and only 1 more counter on it, and we can get some of these bigger cards out. So very handy. Icebind Pillar, another artifact, and we can tap a creature if we want, or an artifact. Mindlink Mech, when we crew it the first time until the end of turn, it becomes a copy of a target non-legendary creature that crewed it, except it's 4/3 and a vehicle artifact, and has flying. Boarded Window, a little bit of a control card for this deck if our opponent has a lot of tokens or little creatures that they got out quickly. Circuit Mender, versatile card, 2/3 for 3 colorless, and it has the entering the battlefield and leaving the battlefield triggers. Foreboding Statue, I really like this card. I like the artwork. I like the concept. It's 1/2 for 3 colorless. We can tap it and add mana of any color. Put the Omen counter on a Foreboding Statue, and at the beginning of our end step, if there are 3 or more, we untap it, transform it, and then we have a 5/5 construct creature that gives us 1 mana and the pre-combat main phase of any color, which I think this card is practically rare level in my opinion. Mirror Box, if we get some of these tokens out that you'll see later on in the deck, well, I don't think we have any legendaries in this deck, but the non-token creatures for the doubles for like the Raven or the Hotshot Mechanic, or any of these other smaller cards like the Patchwork, we get a pretty big boost for each other creature. Replicating Ring, another artifact for mana, and when it breaks up into its 8 colorless snow artifact tokens, now we've got a humongous boost for Michiko's Reign of Truth. Skyclave Relic, similar to the other one. Inventive Iteration and Enchantment. We can send a creature back to its hand or a planeswalker, and we can return an artifact from our graveyard or draw a card. And then once this thing transforms into its 3/3 flying creature, whenever we cast a spell, your opponents can't cast spells with the same mana value as that spell until your next turn. Cosmos Elixir, a very ubiquitous card. What's not to like about drawing a card or gaining 2 life? Seesawing back and forth with that. It's a great card. Myriad Construct, 4/4 as it is, and we can kick it for each non-basic land your opponent controls, but it can turn into, and it's a construct as well, but it can also turn into 4, at its base level, 4 colorless construct creatures. You'll see why that's significant soon. Towashi Guidebot, also a construct. When it comes into play, we put a +1/+1 counter on target creature we control. Typically, that would be this Covert Technician to boost its power so we can bring bigger level artifacts onto the field when it attacks. And then we also have the drawing mechanic. Now, the Dollhouse of Horrors, when we get some creatures into the graveyard and we start creating these constructs, of which the Myriad Construct is one, and the Patchwork Automaton is one. This creature gets +1/+1 for each construct we control as haste. So you can see where that's going. If we have just a really bad early game and we lose a lot of stuff, we can use Brilliant Restoration to bring it all back. I've used this in games and it changes the whole complexion of the game. I had a guy playing Turgid's Lantern and I was sacrificing non-land permanents. I had the replicating ring already split, and it was generating more night counters on its second go around. So I had all these colorless snow artifact tokens I could sacrifice to Tegrid's Lantern, but those work together very well. And then, of course, the lands that we've got in this deck. So it's a fairly fast deck. It's fun to play. It's kind of cool that it's a lot of colorless because we don't have to worry so much about the mana. We got the Roadside Reliquary if we need some cards drawn, and then the Hall of Oracles if we've cast some of the spells. I'm looking if there's a sorcery in this deck. I just was thinking about if there's even a sorcery in here. That's not very handy. Anyway, so I think I may have to look at that. Brilliant Restoration, I think, is the only one. Anyway, so it's a pretty quick deck. It's a pretty fast deck. There's not too many rares in it, really, but it's a fun deck, and it can generate a lot of creatures as well. So I hope you like it. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you've played something similar. I know a lot of artifacts in that Neon expansion that we had, and of course there's already artifacts existing, but a lot of utility type artifacts in the deck, and it makes it fun to play. Appreciate you watching. Share it with your friends, give it a try, post your comments, and smash that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button, and we will see you next time here at The Gamesman.